you check the other stuff? Did you
What's
check
that?
that other stuff? Did you check that rest of that bag? Because with the little powder and then the
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That has a tilak on it. I
yeah,
was
and then
just
you
reading about the
Prabhupada.
tilak, how you're supposed to put that on, and I put it on for special occasions, whenever I go to the kirtan center and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start the chapter here. Share the screen. We got up to the last part of chapter 9, or I mean 9 of chapter 4. Okay, I'll read the Sanskrit and stuff. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, text 10. So Samrat Kashivaheto Pondaram Manavardana Praya Pavisto Gangayam Anadritya Dirat Shriyam. Synonym Sahi, Samrat, the emperor, Kasya for what? Va or Heto, reason. Pandunam, of the sons of Pandu, Mana Vardana, one who enriches the family. Priya Upavista, sitting and fasting. Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges. Anadritya, neglecting. Adirat, acquired kingdom. Shriyam, opulences. Translation: he was a great emperor. He's talking about Parikshit here. He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? Go ahead.
The purport is Mahaj Prakashit was the emperor of the world and all the seas and oceans, and he did not have to take the trouble to acquire such a kingdom by his own effort. He inherited it from his grandfathers Maharaj Yudhishthira and brothers. Besides that, he was doing well in the administration and was worthy of the good names of his forefathers. Consequently, there was nothing undesirable in his own opulence and administration. Then why should he give up all of these favorable circumstances and sit down on the bank of the Ganges fasting till death? This is astonishing, and therefore all were eager to know the cause.
Text 11. Nanmanti yet pada nitketamatmana Shivya Haniya Danani Satrava Katam Savira Sriyam Anga Dustajam Uvais Shato Shrastam Aho Shahasubi. Synonyms: Namanti, bow down. Yat pada, whose feet. Niketam, under. Atmana, own. Shivaya, welfare. Hainia, used to bring about. Danani, wealth. Satrava, enemies. Katam, for what reason? Sahi, Vira, the chivalrous. Shriyam, opulences. Anga, O Sutta Goswami. Dustyajam, insuperable. Yuva, in full youth. Aishata, desired. It utsratstum, to give up. Aho, exclamation. Saha, with. Ashubi, life. Translation: he was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life?
For there was nothing undesirable in his life. He was a young man, and could enjoy life with power and opulence. So there was no question of retiring from active life. There was no difficulty in collecting the state taxes because he was so powerful and chivalrous that even his enemies would come to get him and bow down at his feet and surrender all wealth for their own benefit. Mahaz Prakashit was the pious king. He conquered his enemies, and therefore the kingdom was full of prosperity. There was enough milk, grains, and metals and all the rivers and mountains were full of potencies. So materially, everything was satisfactory. Therefore, there was no question of untimely giving up his kingdom and life. The sages were eager to hear about all this.
12. Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye sa uttama shloka parayana jana jivanti natmartam aso parashrayam mumocha nirvidya kutam kalevaram. Synonyms: Shivaya, welfare, lokasya, of all living beings; bhavaya, flourishing; bhutaya, for economic development; yea, one who is; uttama shloka parayana, devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead; jana, men; jivanti, do live; but not; atmas artam, selfish interest; aso, that; para ashrayam, shelter for others; mumucha, gave up; nirvidya, being freed from all attachment; kuta, for what reason; kelavaram, mortal body. Translation: those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possession, how could he give up his mortal body, which was the shelter for others?
Purport is Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. Devotee of the Lord automatically has all the good qualifications, and the emperor was a typical example of this. Personally, he had no attachment for all the worldly opulences in his possession, but since he was king for all around welfare of his citizens, he was always busy in the welfare work of the public, not only for this life, but also for the next. He would not allow slaughterhouses or killing cows. He was not a foolish and partial administrator who would arrange for the protection of one living being and allow another to be killed. Because he was a devotee of the Lord, he knew perfectly well how to conduct his administration for everyone's happinesses, men, animals, plants, and all living creatures. He was not selfishly interested. Selflessness is either self-centered or self-extended. He was neither. His interest was to please the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. The king is the representative of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the king's interest must be identical with that of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord wants all living beings to be obedient to him and thereby become happy. Therefore, the king's interest is to guide all subjects back to the kingdom of Godhead. Hence, the activities of the citizens should be so coordinated that they can, at the end of the go home, back to Godhead, under the administration of the representative king. The kingdom is full of opulence. At the time, human beings need not eat animals. They are ample food grains, milk, fruit, and vegetables, so that the human beings, as well as the animals, can eat sumptuously and to their heart content. If all living beings are satisfied with food and shelter and obey the prescribed rules, there cannot be any disturbances between one living being and another. Emperor Parikshit was a worthy king, and therefore all were happy during his reign.
Yeah, the reason why a king like Parikshit was only interested, it says, since he was a king for all around welfare of the citizens, he was always busy in the welfare work of the public. So the reason he's like that is because he has no other interest than to please the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. And Krishna wants all living beings to be obedient to him and thereby become happy. So if the king wants what Krishna wants, then he'll want all the citizens to be happy too. So he'll work for that because he's just a representative of Krishna. He's a Rajarshi. Raja means king, and Arishi means saintly. He was a saintly king. You don't find that nowadays. Everybody's pretty much a demon. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows how to benefit other people. They might present themselves as benevolent, benefactors of humanity and have all kinds of plans, but all these plans are not sanctioned by the Vedas, and therefore they usually end up causing more trouble than they are meant to ameliorate, so
yeah.
So anyway, it's just a mess, basically. And nobody knows what's going on. The only hope is for the citizens to become Krishna conscious. How come this is going on here? Okay. All right. So text 13. Tat sarvam nasamas chakva Pristo yad iha kinchana manye tvam vishaye vacham snatam anyatra chandasat. Synonyms. Tat, that, sarvam, all, na, unto us, samachakshva, clearly explained, prishva, question, yat iha, herein, kinchana, all that, manye, we think, tvam, you, vishaye, in all subjects, vacham, meanings of words, snatam, fully acquainted, anyatra, except chandatsha, portion of the Vedas, translation. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. You read the first paragraph, I'll read the second one.
All right. The difference between the Vedas and the Puranas is like the between the Brahmanas and the
Parivrajaka's.
The Brahmanas are meant to administer some fruitive sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, but the
Parivrajakacharyas,
or the learned preachers, are meant to disseminate transcendental knowledge to one and all. As such, the
Parivrajakacharyas
are not always
twice really fast.
I'll get there. Are not always expert in pronouncing the Vedic mantras, which are practiced systematically by accent and meter by the Brahmanas, who are meant for administrating Vedic rites. Yet it should not be considered that the Brahmanas are more important than the itinerant preachers. They are one and different simultaneously because they are meant for the same end in different ways.
Yeah, the itinerant. Let me look up what itinerant means. Itinerant.
Yeah, I don't know what that word means.
Traveling from place to place. Okay.
Oh, okay, traveling.
Yeah,
okay.
See, the Parivrajakacharyas are traveling preachers. They go and they stay like as much as for as long as it takes to milk a cow at each house, and then they go on to the next place if they need fed. But they just go there just to actually not just to eat, but they go there to enlighten the householders, are usually just like grihas just fallen into the well, of family life, and they're just attached to their family, and they're making money and stuff, but they don't really think about Krishna consciousness very much. So the Parivrajakacharyas, they go to these places to help the householders out of their well. If you fall into a well, it's like sometimes the wells are covered. That's the way they catch elephants in India. They take a female elephant and then they have a hole. They dig a hole and then they cover it up with the grass, and then it lures the male elephant, and then the male elephant falls in the well, in the hole, and then they can't get out. And no matter how much you scream, maybe nobody can hear you. So the Parivrajakacharyas, or the traveling preachers, go from door to door to enlighten the citizens, and he doesn't want any money or food from them. He's just there because he's doing his duty as a traveling preacher. There's two kinds of sannyasis, the Parvrajakacharyas and the Bhajananandis, you know, the ones that just sit in a secluded place like Haridas Thakur and chant Hare Krishna. But we can't imitate that. Usually most people have to, you know, practice Krishna consciousness by going out and speaking to others, because if we don't, it says it's like a broken pot. Like if you have a cracked pot and you put water in it, all just going to leak out. So if you don't preach Krishna consciousness, it's just your devotional service will be like a cracked pot, and all your devotional service will leak out onto the ground. So we have to preach Krishna consciousness, because to whom much is given, much is required. So we have to give back what we got, you know. Let me just do the second paragraph here. There is no difference also between the Vedic mantras and what is explained in the Puranas and Itihasas. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned in the Madhyadina Shruti that all the Vedas, namely Sama, Atharva, Rig, Yajur, Puranas, Itihasas, Upanishads, etc., are emanations from the breathing of the Supreme Being. The only difference is that the Vedic mantras are mostly begun with Pranav Omkar, and it requires some training to practice the metric pronunciation of the Vedic mantras. But that does not mean that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is of less importance than the Vedic mantras. On the contrary, it is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, as stated before. Besides that, is the most perfectly liberated soul. Srila Shukadeva Goswami is absorbed in the studies of the Bhagavatam, although he is already self-realized. Srila Sutta Goswami is following in his footsteps. So see, Sutta Goswami heard Shukadeva speak when he was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and he, you know, Sutta Goswami is speaking it again to an assembly of sages who are performing his 1,000-year sacrifice in this forest called Namasharanya. And all the sages were asking him about Parikshit and why he sat down to die, you know, before, and he heard from Shukadeva Goswami. So that's the process of disciplic succession. You get to hear from those teachers, and then when you've heard, then you assimilate that and you put that in your life and you act on that, and then you can become a leader yourself. The best leader is a good follower. Srila Sutta Goswami is following in his footsteps, and therefore his position is not the least less important, because he was not an expert in chanting Vedic mantras with metric pronunciation, which depends more on practice than actual realization. Realization is more important than parrot-like chanting. Text 14. Sutta Vacha Dvapare Samanu Prapte Tritiye Yugaparyaye Jata Para. Oh, there he is, Trevor. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I saw your. Hey,
Say
what's
Krishna.
your name?
Hare Krishna.
Say my name's Zanu.
Hare Krishna.
That's Zanu. Zanu Ram.
How do you spell that?
Zannu.
Zanu.
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 Yeah.
Hi, Zanu. Thanks for joining us.
Say Haribo.
Haribo. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's
All right,
cool.
so we're gonna just continue here.
I had trouble with my connection. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. You know, it's like it. You know, to err as human, it takes a computer to really screw things up sometimes, though.
Right.
Okay, so we're just reading the 14th verse here. I'm reading the synonyms and translation, and when I get done reading the translation, you can read the paragraph, Trevor.
Okay.
All right. Sutta Goswami Uvacha said, Dvarpare in the second millennium, Samanu Prapte on the advent of Tritiye, third Yuga millennium, Paryaye in the place of Jata was begotten Parasharat by Parashara Yogi, the great sage Vishvasyam in the womb of the daughter of Vasu, Kalaya in the plenary portion Hare of the personality of Godhead. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. Go ahead, Trevor.
There is a chronological order of the 4 millenniums, namely Satya, Dvapara, Treta, and Kali. But sometimes there's overlapping. During the regime of Vaivasvata Manu, there was an overlapping of the 28th round of the 4 millenniums, and the 3rd millennium appeared prior to the 2nd. In that particular millennium, Lord Sri Krishna also descends, and because of this, there was some particular alteration. The mother of the great sage was Satyavati, the daughter of the Vasu fisherman, and the father was the great Parashara Muni. That is the history of Vyasudeva's birth. Every millennium is divided into 3 periods, and each period is called a sandhya. Vyasudeva appeared in the 3rd sandhya of that particular age.
So how do you pronounce his name again? Kanyu?
Zanu.
Zanu. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting name. Did you get that from somewhere?
Yeah.
That name? Where did you get that?
There's an Egyptian tribe that would worship the sun, call it the disk of Anu, and I just wanted a Z name, and it gave it a better flow anyways. And I made it, his middle name's Ram, so Zanu Ram, it kind of flows better. So,
wow, nice.
Very
healing. They worship the sun in India too. When I was there in 1988, I just happened to be in Jagannath Puri, which is where Lord Chaitanya's pastimes were. And we were staying in a pretty nice motel. Even though it was like a 5-star motel, they didn't have any laundry, so we had to do it by hand. And I mean, it's still, kind of like backwards, even though it was a pretty nice place. That was a beautiful place, actually, right there on the shore of the Bay of Bengal. And we happened to be there right on the day when all pilgrims come to the Bay of Bengal and they worship the sun when it comes up. So like hundreds of thousands of people were lining the shore as the sun was coming up, and all the fishing boats were going out to sea. It was a pretty awesome scene. I'm not sure what they call that festival day, but the pilgrims come from all over India to go to that festival.
That's so beautiful.
It's kind of an epic scene,
Yeah, that is epic.
So that's, the sun actually is a personality. He is Vivishwan. He's the demigod. He's actually a representative of Krishna. Every single planet has its own representative of the Supreme Person. Like Bhumi is the goddess of the earth. You have like 5 mothers. You have the Earth Mother, you have your own mother, you have the mother of the spiritual master, and then the cow. The cow is also a mother, because she gets milk. So, so we have so many mothers, and we have to honor our mothers. And so the earth is actually our mother because she provides everything that we have. And she's actually a personality. And so it's really interesting how everything actually is personal.
That's so beautiful.
We have to understand that, it's like people think, oh, this is just mythology. But it's not mythology. These are actually, Vivishwan lives on the sun. He just has a body that's just like there's living entities that live in different atmospheres. His body is can acclimate itself. He's got such a material body that he is acclimated to that fiery atmosphere. So
yes.
So anyway,
beautiful.
Yeah. So we'd actually learn a lot from the Vedas if we actually listen to what they're saying. The Vedas say Sarvagata. Sarvagata means there's living entities everywhere. And actually, my mentor, who was a Swami in New Vrindavan back in the 80s, he wrote an article for the BTG that they had this, they're talking about this experiment that they did with this scientific submarine, like a deep diving submarine called Alvin. Alvin would go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, like the bottom of the ocean where there's like volcanic activity there. And the right near the volcano under the ocean is like really intense pressure, and the water was like 600 degrees. And so all the scientists, they thought, well, this on a whim. They didn't think they'd find anything, but they took a sample of the water and they found living entities in 600 degrees with temperature, with pressure that would crush any ordinary living entity. And they found little organisms living in that water. And then when the pressure decreased and when the temperature went down, they all died. But then when they raised the temperature again, the ones that were alive, they started multiplying.
That's like the little reflection and an example of how other beings can live in different places, of elemental places.
600 degrees, like a piece of paper bursts into flames, but somehow or other their proteins don't break down and all these different things don't, affect that living organism. So, they could learn a lot, but they think this is all mythology. But
Right,
that's their
right.
chosen ignorance. But they can learn a lot from the Vedas. Vedas have all knowledge. Okay, I'm going to read this second, this 15.
Thank you for sharing that stuff. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty good article from the BTG. I was trying to look for that. But the text 15, I'm going to read it, and then actually, I'll just read the Sanskrit and synonyms, and Al, you can read the translation and the sentence after that. Nakadashit sarvatya upasprishya jalam suchi vivikta eka asina udite rave mandale. Synonyms: sa hi kadachit, once, Sarasvatya, on the bank of the Sarasvati, upasprishya, after finishing morning ablutions, jalam, water, suchi, being purified, vivikte, concentration, eka, alone, asina, being thus seated, udite, on the rise, ravi mandale, of the sun disk. Go ahead, Val.
All right. Once upon a time, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took this morning ablution in the waters of the Sarasvati and sat alone and to concentrate. The purport: the river Sarasvati is flowing in the Bhattacharya area of the Himalayas. So the place indicated here is the Samyaprasaya. I'm not sure if I pronounced that one right.
Samyaprasaya.
Yeah.
Bhattacharya is the way you pronounce the other one.
Yeah, I almost had it. When Śrī Vyasadeva is residing.
He's still residing there, by the way.
Yeah, you were mentioning that a while ago.
And not only that, the Narayan sage is in that area too.
Yeah, Narayan's
like these sages and stuff there that live way up in the Himalayas. When I was there in '88, we were right in the area where the Ganges is, right at the foothills of the Himalaya mountains. And when we were there in the winter, everybody was coming down, but there was one sage who stopped there where they were going to build this temple. They have a beautiful temple there now, but he was going up when everybody else was going down. So that's the nature. Sometimes these sages, they endure all kinds of hardship just to go to a holy place like Bhattacharya. You can't even, like most people can't even get there. It's like very hard place to get to. So text 16, and then after I read this, you can read that the next purport, Trevor.
Okay.
Avaragnasarishi kalena vyaktaram hasa yuga dharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi uge para avara, past and future, Gyan, one who knows. Sa he rishi Vyasadeva kalena, by time, avyakta, unmanifested, ramhasa, by great force, yuga dharma, acts in terms of the millennium, Vyaktikaram, anomalies, praptam, having accrued, bhuvi, on the earth, yuge, different ages. Translation: the great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. Go ahead, Trevor.
The great sages like Vyasadeva are liberated souls, and therefore they can see clearly past and future. Thus he could see the future anomalies in the Kali age, and accordingly he made arrangement for the people in general, so they can execute a progressive life in this age, which is full of darkness. The people in general in this age of Kali are too much interested in matter, which is temporary. Because of ignorance, they're unable to evaluate the assets of life and be enlightened in spiritual knowledge.
Yeah, the nature of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which Vyasadeva wrote, this book, and all the Vedas actually, and is that he could see the past, the present, and the future. Due to their mystic vision, they can understand, due to the different influences in the ages, what's going to happen. And so he predicted all the future avatars, like he predicted Kalki, the avatar that will come at the end of this age. And he predicted Buddha, like thousands of years before the Buddha came. He predicted, okay, this Buddha, he will appear in this province in India. His father's name will be this, his name will be that. He predicted all that a couple thousand years before he even appeared. And so that's the accuracy of these sages. They know past, present, and future, and they know it without a doubt. And so that's the because we can't understand this stuff. We don't have the ability to comprehend like that. But these people that compile this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, he's actually an incarnation of Godhead, and he can understand what's going on in all the different influences and how people will react to them, and thus he can predict the future accurately, very accurately. All the sages, all the incarnations of Godhead are listed. And anybody says, I'm God, they can. There's so many people in India, sometimes they'll just say, I'm God, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am moving the sun, I am moving the moon. And then they get a toothache, and then they have to run to the dentist. Like I just went to the dentist to get my tooth fixed because I knocked half my tooth out on the porch. And so they're not God. Prabhupada said, if you're God, you're actually dog. If you think you're God, claim yourself to be God, they are actually a dog.
No doubt.
You can't imitate. If you're the you have to. Can you show your universal form? Can you lift on hill? Are you in the scriptures? No. Okay, so therefore you're a dog. You're not God. So let me see here. I think we only got a few minutes left. We got like 3 minutes. Is there any questions that you might have?
I have a question, right? I was meaning to mention about the one where I was talking about, I was reading the Easy Journey to Other Planets and about the demigods. People in other parts out of Ishkan, it could be a Kali or Shiva devotee, any devotee. How come Prabhupada is being real frank about saying, look, people are less intelligent for worshiping the demigods, and then the people of the demigods take Prabhupada as offensive? And they say, because he calls us less intelligent and we use the demigods as sense gratification. What is that?
Prabhupada doesn't say that. Krishna says that. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who worship the demigods go to the demigods. Those who worship the ghosts and spirits go to the ghosts and spirits. Those who worship me go live with me. So if you want, demigods cannot bestow liberation on anyone.
I think where the confusion there.
If you want permanent happiness, you can get up, you can go to the spiritual, you can go to heavenly planet like Indra, where he lives, but you can't live there forever. Once your pious credits are used up, you have to come back down to the material world. So why, if you had any sense, why wouldn't you make a permanent solution and not have to take birth again in this miserable material world? That's less. So that's what it means by less intelligent. If you're really smart, you'll make a permanent solution and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion where it becomes like idol worshiping if you mistake Krishna if you see Krishna as equal to Shiva. That's where it becomes offensive. It's okay.
It's actually you're an atheist if you do that. You're an offender. That's one of the offenses to the holy name, is to consider the demigods to be equal to or greater than Lord Krishna.
Right.
They are told that Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. All his incarnations, all his expansions come from him, and the demigods also come from him. He's the source of all causes. That includes the demigods. So how can you say that, demigods, I mean, they're all to be honored. They're never to be blasphemed.
Yeah.
But you can't like say that they're equal to Krishna, because Krishna is the greatest. He's the cause of causes. He's the supreme controller. The demigods are servants of Krishna. So you have to have a proper perspective. Otherwise, you might commit offenses, and then you won't make any advancement. I mean, if whatever benedictions the demigods give, that comes from Krishna. Anyway, thank you for showing up, Trevor.
Thank you for having me. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was nice to meet your son.
Oh, thank you.
Keep on chanting.
Sorry, I showed up a little late.
That's okay. Well, maybe next week we'll get a whole thing.
I was looking forward to this all week too, and I was like, oh man, my internet takes a while to reboot on the mountain.
Oh yeah, you're way up there in the boonies.